I'm here today with Carrie Perjean Boller. She was previously on an Religious Liberty Commission, and you might have seen her viral clip. I'll play it here in a moment. Carrie, I'm really excited to talk to you today. So much has been going on, so thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit, what is the Religious Liberty Commission, and how did you initially get on it?
The Religious Liberty Commission was established by President Trump. He signed an executive order on the National Day of Prayer establishing this Religious Liberty Commission. And our job, there's 12 of us serving on this commission. It's under the Department of Justice. It has to have, a chair of that commission and the executive branch. And so our job really is to just hear from everyday average Americans like myself who are facing religious persecution and being fired for their religious beliefs or canceled or told they can't have their religious freedom here in America. So I find it very ironic that someone who is a religious person on a religious commission isn't allowed to have their religious freedom. You can't even make this up.
Yeah. And how did you initially get involved with this?
The president appointed me. So I received a call from the White House, and they knew that I was a recent convert to Catholicism. And they said that the president wanted to appoint me to this commission, and I was very honored. I've known the president for almost 20 years now. He's been a dear friend of mine.
Okay, great. And
Mhm.
your relationship with them, how did that really start, and how did that kind of lead up to the commission then prior to his calling?
Yeah, so back in 2009, I was Miss California, and I went to Miss USA as Miss California, competed there, and Donald Trump owned the pageant at the time. He owned Miss USA and Miss Universe. And from the stage, I declared that I believe marriage is between one man and one woman. And I got second place that night. And then, after that, the president, or Donald Trump at the time, he called me and he just supported me. And he said, I love what you said. And I'm so proud of you that you stood for your faith. And, so he appreciated that I stood for my faith back then. And I don't know why things have changed now.
Yeah. Did you know that Israel and Zionism was going to be a central theme? Was it a central theme prior to this recent hearing?
So every hearing we've had different topics. So the first one was like religious liberty in the education system. So students who are facing any religious discrimination, whether it's not wanting to have certain curriculum be taught that goes against their religious beliefs, or we had religious liberty in military, where certain military officers were fired for not getting the COVID shot. We had a hearing on well, and the recent one was anti-Semitism. So
Yeah.
this was the last hearing. Well, there's one more hearing after this, but this was one of the final hearings. And the topic was supposed to be on, I thought it was supposed to be on anti-Semitism here in America, but for whatever reason, it was hijacked by a foreign country who, they talked about Israel over 17 times. I pointed that out from the stage. And I realized shortly after that this was going to be a hearing on Zionism, that this was going to be the focus of this hearing. They didn't care about Jewish Americans who were facing religious persecution here in America. They care about a foreign country. And that's really unfortunate.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems like they're making anti-Semitism and Zionism one and the same. That's their,
Yep.
it seems, do you feel like that was the goal of the commission of that hearing to make it one and the same?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Back in August, when I got put on this commission by the president, I was posting about what was going on in Gaza. And I was posting about, just the suffering, the tremendous suffering that the Palestinians were enduring. And because my faith calls me to stand up for those who can't fight for themselves. And so I was just upholding my religious beliefs by posting about it. And I got a call from the lieutenant governor, who's the chairman of this commission, and Paula White. And I was told that I wasn't allowed to post about Zionism. I wasn't allowed to post about Israel, that I'm not informed about what's happening there. And there's no starvation in Gaza and it's all fake. I was asked to resign from the White House. They called me in August and I refused to resign. So the president, had my back then when they tried to fire me. And I don't know why he's not supporting me now, but that's really kind of the backstory of it. So yeah, it's unfortunate that this is happening. This is a religious freedom situation, and this should not be happening here in America.
So in August they tried to have you resign. You're saying the president had your back.
Mhm.
What did he do? How did he have your back?
Well, when the White House, the woman named Mary Sproul, she called me from the PPO office asking me for my resignation. And I said, who is asking you to have me resign? Is it the president? Because the president appointed me and only he can remove me. So I'm not resigning unless I hear from the president. And I asked her specifically, who is asking you to have me resign? And she said she's spoken with Paula White, Dan Patrick, and a woman named Brittany Baldwin, who used to work for Ted Cruz. So this was a witch hunt from the very beginning. I met with the president at the hearing shortly thereafter that phone conversation of asking me to resign. And he told me that I was to stay on this commission and that he knows the real me, and that, he kind of basically said that, told the people to leave me alone, and that I was going to stay on the commission, which I did. I did. So that's kind of the backstory leading up. So I've known for many months now that they have been trying to silence me, trying to get me to stop posting about, Gaza, stop posting about anything having to do with Israel, criticizing Israel. They even told me that I wasn't allowed to be an anti-Zionist if I was going to serve on this commission, which is absurd. It's absurd that I can't hold firm to my Christian faith and not support a political ideology.
They told you couldn't be anti-Zion. This is what they told you back in August?
Yeah. In fact, the designated federal officer who works for the White House told me specifically that there was a post that I had done claiming that, basically saying that I don't support Zionism. And she said, Carrie, you can't post that. And there's, people in the White House that are saying that you're an anti-Semite if you're not supporting Zionism. And, I eventually just ended up telling her, like, this is my religious beliefs and you can't take away my religious rights. I'm not a Zionist. So
is nobody close to the president also Catholic, or there's not one anti-Zionist near the president's circle?
I mean, I would hope that not everybody in his ear is pushing this ideology, because really it's in benefit of a foreign nation. We're Americans. We want religious freedom. We want freedom of speech. Nobody should be canceled for their religious beliefs. A Muslim shouldn't be canceled, a Jewish person, a Christian. No one should be canceled. And that's why I took this position on the Religious Liberty Commission, because I want to uphold every American's religious freedom, not just my own, which is why I'm standing up for the Palestinians.
Absolutely. And during the commission, there was a portion, a clip where you directly ask one of the speakers, am I an anti-Semite because I'm Catholic? Is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? And he inadvertently, he basically said yes.
Yeah, he did say yes. And I take offense to that.
Absolutely. I mean, did you expect that going into this hearing? What were your thoughts on Zionism in general?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. Before the hearing, they tried to do an intervention. So Dan Patrick texted me at around 7:30 in the morning. We were supposed to arrive at 7:45. It was a last minute, attempt to try to scare me and silence me. And so he called a private meeting with myself, Ben Carson, Dan Patrick, and Paula White. Brittany Baldwin was there. And then I wanted someone from the advisory board who happens to be a Muslim, who serves alongside me on the advisory board for this commission. I wanted her to come with me. And I asked Eric Metaxas, who serves on the commission, to come with me. And because I didn't feel comfortable coming to this, intervention meeting alone. Yeah. And they basically told me that I wasn't allowed to, they weren't sure how this hearing was going to go. And, they were kind of threatening me in a way, saying, like, you better toe the line, Carrie. You better not go out of line in this hearing today. And I said, well, is this a religious liberty commission or is this a Zionist commission? I said that to their faces. I said, because if you don't want me to talk about Gaza and if you don't want me to talk about the Palestinians, then don't talk about Israel. So are you going to talk about Israel? So that was kind of the precursor to the actual hearing, is this intense intervention meeting where they were trying to silence me then. And so all I did calmly and articulately was say, hey, let's define what anti-Semitism is. And they didn't like that. The logical conclusion of their explanation of anti-Semitism, it's that anyone who doesn't support Zionism is a hateful bigot. Yeah. And you know what? That should be the story. How dare they say that about Catholics? Because we don't embrace Zionism. We don't. We don't support it. We don't embrace it as a biblical fulfillment of, biblical prophecy at all. We reject that. And so what does that mean for Catholics? That we don't have a place in America, that our religious freedom isn't upheld due to a foreign, political ideology? That should be the story.
Absolutely. I mean, what was the point of the hearing if you're not allowed to express your religious beliefs as a Catholic, were they just using the hearing as a propaganda moment to push Zionism? Is that what you felt? What did you feel like the hearing, the purpose was then?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think that they had a goal from the very beginning to silence any voices that are opposed to their agenda. In fact, Dan Patrick told me on the phone that my job on this commission is protect the president of the United States, and that what I was posting goes against him and it could hurt his reputation. No, my allegiance first
Wow.
and foremost is to my faith in Jesus Christ and what my faith teaches me, and then my allegiance is to my country. So both of those things, for him to ask me to do that would be a violation of my First Amendment rights, which is very unfortunate. That Dan Patrick is has more allegiance to a foreign country than he does to his own country.
During the intervention prior to the hearing, you told them, your stance. How did they respond back to that? Did they just basically, how did they respond back to that?
Well, they didn't like that I had reposted the Muslim Advisory Board member, what she had posted. She had told me, hey, I think like leading up to this hearing, and I told her too. I said we should have voices from all kinds of Jewish Americans, not just pro-Zionist Jews. Why can't we hear from Norm Finkelstein? Why can't we hear from certain rabbis who don't support Zionism, who've been fighting against Zionism for 40 years? What are they? Anti-Semites? Are Jewish Americans who don't support Zionism anti-Semites? That's absurd. That's insane. And so I had posted, the fact that this commission didn't want to hear from those 4 Jewish Americans. They didn't want to hear from these 2 pro-Palestinian Christian organizations who I suggested to testify at this hearing to have a fair and balanced hearing. They didn't want that. They rejected all of those witnesses. And so I was the only one actually standing up for real anti-Semitism in America, which includes Jewish people who are not Zionists.
Absolutely. And they rejected that.
They rejected it because they have their own narrative. They have their own agenda. It's a pro-Zionist agenda. And that's why they didn't like that I exposed the elephant in the room, which is they're all Zionists and they don't want anybody who's not a Zionist to serve on this commission, which is why they removed me, or at least attempted to remove me.
How much did you, well, actually, let's talk about a little bit more about that. So I really loved your response on social media when the chairman stated that you are being removed, because I think your response was so courageous, and it really, it really kind of flipped everything over on its head. So tell me, why don't you just go ahead and share it yourself? What did he say on social media, and how did you respond?
Yeah, he basically said that I hijacked the hearing, which is completely untrue. And he tried to make it seem like I went in and, was so combative. No, I was very respectful. And so my response to Dan Patrick, and then he says in the statement that this was his decision, like he's some tough guy that he has the power to do that. Well, he doesn't have the power to do it under the executive order. Only the president has the right to and the authority to remove an appointee of this Religious Liberty Commission. Unless I die or unless I resign, I'm still on this commission. Dan Patrick has no authority, just like I don't have the authority to remove him. And so he really has overstepped his authority on this. And so that was my statement is, he has no authority to do it, and only the president does under this executive order. This is not some little club. This is not some country club. This is an executive order by the president of the United States.
Yeah.
This is serious. And so for Dan Patrick to just come out and say this was his decision, we're equals on this commission. He can't remove me and I can't remove him. And we will see what the president does. I know he's receiving tremendous pressure from both the Zionists, and he's receiving pressure from, Christians who are saying, why would you allow this guy to remove this girl? Stand up for her and fight for her religious freedom, Mr. President. Otherwise, this commission should be shut down.
So far, you haven't received a response from the president?
No, but I have heard from, people within the White House that are saying that, he's getting a lot of pressure and he saved me back then. And, it's just unfortunate that he's trying to avoid this topic, and he's trying to avoid standing for people of all faiths, including myself as a Christian. Why isn't he coming out and defending me? I would really like to know. We've been friends for almost 20 years. And I think he owes it to the American people because they're upset. The world is on my side, and I really appreciate all the support that I've gotten.
Well, no, the world definitely is on your side. I was listening to your interview yesterday with the Young Turks. I loved it. And you were stating, and I found this so interesting, that people in the White House behind the scenes were thanking you
Hmm.
and stating that we stand by you, even though they're too scared to come
Yeah.
forward and support you. Explain a little bit about that. Did you expect that? What were those responses behind the scenes?
Yeah, I've been told that I'm, on a group text within the White House and they're all applauding me and saying that, I was so courageous and I exposed the elephant in the room and they're too afraid to say anything. And, even people within mainstream media, legacy media and Fox News, they're saying that they support me, but they can't come out. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem is why are people so afraid? We're talking about a country the size of New Jersey. Why do they have so much control over America that Americans with their First Amendment rights? I mean, literally, they're not even able to stand up for their own freedom in this country because we don't support Israel. We're not a slave to Israel. Is that what this is coming to? That we're seeing who the people that are the two, the dividing factor right now. This is what I said just early on a different podcast. We're seeing the slaves versus the free people. We're
Yeah.
seeing the ones who are owned versus the ones who are free. And so I'm free. I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave to Israel. I'm not a slave to Zionist money. I don't make money from any of this. I'm a mom in California. I'm a Catholic who my allegiance is to Christ alone. And my allegiance is not to a foreign country. It's not to Israel. It's not to AIPAC. It's not to money. I don't worship money. I worship Christ. And so I want everybody to really be inspired by this, to stand up for themselves and to stop being a slave to fear. That's another thing is they're a slave to. They're a slave to being afraid. Oh, I don't want to lose my job. Oh, well, guess what? They can't cancel all of us. If we all just rip the Band-Aid off and say the truth, what are they going to do? Enough's
Yeah.
enough. This is America. Start acting like Americans. We're free. Don't act like a slave. That's my message.
Absolutely. I mean, I wondered whether the people in the administration, whether they're truly diehard believers in Zionism, or whether some of them are doing it and, just going with the flow simply because it's easier and it's safer. So
Yeah.
it seems like people reached out to you and they are skeptical and they are questioning it. Uh, did you expect that? Because it's shocking to know that there are people in the administration that are questioning it, but they're too scared to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder, they already have such high positions. Why are they scared? Why do they feel like who's behind the scenes that's going
I'll
to?
tell you why they're scared. They're scared because it's a gang. They know what's going to happen to them. They know what's coming. Look at what they've done to me. Look at
Yeah.
what they've done to me. They want to silence me, smear me, cancel me, threaten me, tarnish my reputation. I mean, this is their tactics. These are thugs. These are real gang-like thugs who are trying to literally destroy a Catholic woman's life simply because I am not a Zionist. I don't support this political ideology which forces me to worship a foreign country and say that they have every right to go and commit genocide because they're God's chosen people. I reject that. Those who are in Christ are God's chosen people. Jews, Gentiles, we're all welcomed into that new covenant. The old covenant has been fulfilled in the new. You're all welcome to join. But guess what? Don't call me a hateful person because I don't support your political genocidal ideology of Zionism that you can just go in and start killing people for fun. I reject that. That's crazy. Don't be a Christian hater by forcing me to support genocide. That's Christian hatred if you're forcing me to do that. That's infringing on my religious freedom.
Absolutely. Well,
It's crazy.
explain a little bit more about that. What is Christian Zionism, and then why does Catholicism reject that? Because I think a lot of people are curious.
Yeah, no, it's really good that we're having this discussion because this is really it comes down to theology. So they believe Christian Zionists believe that there's two covenants, that God has a covenant with the Jewish people and he has a covenant with us, the Christian people. And we reject that. For 2,000 years, the church has taught that we are the new Israel, that the church is the new Israel, the new Jerusalem. All are welcome to join into that new covenant under faith in Christ. It is by faith in Christ that you are saved and welcomed into the new covenant. And so I think Christianity has been hijacked by these Christian Zionists who are telling people, like Ted Cruz is telling people, those who bless Bibi will be blessed. Those who bless the modern state of Israel will be blessed. And if you don't, you're going to be cursed. Lindsey Graham tells us God's going to pull the plug if you don't support the modern state of Israel. We reject that. Israel today, 1948 Israel, is not the same Israel as the Bible. And we have to stop saying that. That's a lie. That's heretical teaching, you know? And so it is theological. And so these Christian Zionists believe that, in order for Christ to return to Jerusalem, that the Dome of the Rock needs to be torn down, which is why they, cheer on for the Muslim, for us to hate the Muslims. They want the Dome of the Rock torn down in order to bring in the rebuilding of the third temple. They're going to bring in animal sacrifices again. I mean, this is crazy. And then they believe they're so anti-Semitic that they believe that 2/3 are going to be slaughtered, that there's going to be a Holocaust of the Jews, or they're going to turn to Christ, which hopefully they do. But I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Their theology is teaching this. And so that's why they say, this is a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. 1948 Israel is some sort of biblical prophecy. No, we don't believe that. We do not believe that at all. There is no biblical prophecy fulfillment in 1948 state of Israel. There's not. And we reject that. And we rejected that for 2,000 years. So don't force me to believe that theology because it's heretical.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
That's to
completely
sum it
agree.
up. I mean, that's really to sum it up.
I think a lot of people are curious because you have been receiving a lot. I mean, a lot of people are in support, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a gang that is also working to really just tear you down. Explain how this gang. I've been seeing Laura Loomer, Mark Levin,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, but explain this Zionist gang that is tearing you down. How do they really operate? Have you witnessed anything like this before?
Yes, they're very strategic, and they know it's like BLM. If you didn't put the black square up, what did they call you? They called you a racist. It's the same playbook. If you don't go along with their agenda, with their narrative, by excusing the slaughter of innocent civilians in Gaza, if you don't go along with that, oh, you're a Jew hater. You are a Jew hater. And you know what? I don't even entertain that idea. Everybody knows that I love all people. I love Muslims. I love Jews. I love Christians. I love all people. But I'm not even going to entertain the idea that this has anything to do with Judaism or me hating Jewish people, because Rabbi Shapiro is saying the same exact thing that I'm saying by saying I'm not a Zionist. So does that make a rabbi anti-Semitic? This is crazy. And so their narrative is really collapsing. The Mark Levins and the Laura Loomers and the Ted Cruz's who are attacking me, their narrative is absolutely collapsing. People don't believe this anymore. I mean, look at the comments on Instagram. She's getting absolutely ratioed on X right now.
Yeah.
Like Mark Levin, he's not even relevant anymore. Like nobody's listening to him. The tide is shifting. This is a turning point for our country, and it's time Americans take our country back. Take back our freedom. We're Americans.
Absolutely.
We're never going to surrender, especially to a foreign country who claims that they get to genocide a people because God allows that. I reject that. That's blasphemous. How dare you say that?
I mean, the administration has to be on social media. They have to be seeing where the tide is going. I mean, you said it yourself. People are coming behind the scenes and telling you, hey, we stand by you, but we can't say anything. Where do you think the future is going within the administration? Do you think they're just going to hold on for the rest of Trump's term? How do you feel like things are happening from your perspective with the context that you have?
I think that this is like a volcano erupting, and people are fed up. They've seen what's going on with the Epstein files. There's questionable things about Charlie Kirk. Enough's enough. And it's okay to ask questions. Like Charlie said, you better keep asking questions because it's the only thing that keeps us free. Well, they're trying to take away our freedom. And so I want this administration to recognize that if you want MAGA to survive, you better stand for America first, okay? Before you stand for any other foreign country. Your allegiance should be to Americans, not to a foreign nation. And there's 3 people that are throwing their hat in, I think. Rumors are, Marco Rubio, who's a Catholic, Ron DeSantis, who's a Catholic, and J.D. Vance, who's a Catholic. And 56% of Catholics voted for Trump in 2024. And I will tell you, unless these three men have the courage and the spine to come out and defend Catholics, I don't think they're going to win the Catholic vote. And I think MAGA is going to be completely destroyed because of Israel and because of this foreign influence that they have over our politicians, APAC money, and just how these politicians are just becoming slaves to a foreign country. So I don't know what happens to MAGA, honestly, but I want the president's legacy to be America first. And so I hope he does the right thing. I really do, but I haven't heard from him. And until then, I remain on this commission.
Absolutely. Who's came out in support of you? Any specific organizations?
Yes, yes. So, oh my goodness, I want to give a big shout out to Catholics for Catholics. They were huge in, getting the Catholic vote in 2024 for President Trump, and they came out swinging from the very beginning. They've been my champion, and they announced that they're giving me the Catholic Champion Award next month in Washington, D.C. I'll be there with Candace Owens and General Flynn and Matt Walsh and a bunch of other Catholics standing for America and for our freedom and for our religious freedom, especially. So thank you, Catholics for honoring me. And it's an honor to accept this award.
Well, I'll also say I'm Palestinian. So I work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I work very closely with Palestinians, and I've had prior to, when things were really starting to go viral with your clips, I had several Palestinian Christians actually just Palestinians in general, send me clips from the hearing. And a lot of Palestinian Christians, there's one that I work with really closely in Bethlehem that's constantly getting, her name's Elise Kissia, constantly getting harassed with settler violence.
Wow.
And, they were just happy to see that there are Christians in America that actually are speaking out against Zionism because it's hurting Palestinians. It's hurting Christians in Bethlehem.
It is. It is. And please tell your friend, I'm so sorry. And I'm going to continue to fight for people like her, not only Christians, but Muslims who are facing, tremendous suffering. It's so wrong. And to call me as a Catholic Christian, hateful bigot when all I'm doing is standing up for innocent human life, it's manipulative and it's gaslighting, and I reject it. So please tell your Palestinian friends that I'm going to fight for them, for their right to exist, and just for their freedom, because so many have reached out to me and they said, I can't even speak out, but thank you for speaking for me. And so I'm going to fight for them until my very last breath.
Thank you so much. Any final words or anything else you'd like to say before we end here?
Just thank you for everyone for supporting me. I see all your messages, and I hope that we can, move forward in this country and not be occupied by a foreign nation. So that's really my message.
Absolutely. Carrie, thank you so much.
Thank you.